Hello, Pastor Steve Waldron here, New Life Pentecostal Church, Albany, Georgia. We have with us today
Good to be with you too.
Brother Paul Mooney, Bishop Paul Mooney.
Yeah.
He is the Assistant General Superintendent, United Pentecostal Church International. He's also President, Founder, Indiana Bible College, just loves young people, has Calvary Christian School, one of the larger, maybe the largest apostolic Christian school, I don't know.
I'm not sure.
$14, $15 million state-of-the-art building, loves young people, just really used of God. And glad you're here today. We just want to ask you.
Let me correct one thing. The Indiana Bible College actually was founded by Dennis Croucher, Brother Dennis Croucher, Seymour, Indiana. And they were there for about 10 years and then it came down to.
I got you.
Yeah.
So I knew it had an iteration there.
Yeah. The United Pentecostal Church was very good about us picking up the charter and carrying on after they decided to let go of it because they needed to under the circumstances. But anyway, that's another story.
Now IBC, it's the largest apostolic school in North America, in my knowledge. And
I don't know the numbers, but you know, we got all of our schools are good schools.
you have a Spanish IBC now.
We do.
I think you got a couple hundred in extended learning, distance
And
learning.
Myanmar, from what's old Burma, we have a good group of students from that congregation too. Yeah, it is. Very exciting.
Wow. Well, young people, I know you've got your pulse on technology and that kind of thing. Any advice you give young people that are watching today?
You know, a young man, it's interesting you asked this question, a young man was talking to me this week, and we were just kind of talking about, and I think I mentioned it to the young man in your church that picked me up today too, which is an outstanding young guy. I really enjoyed talking to him, Brother Rhonda. And so I said the same thing to him. I think that the whole context of what it means to be real, you know, just be real. I see so much, so many young people trying too hard to whether it's preaching or just to be a preacher in a sense. So to be real, just be a genuine person. That is a very helpful thing because people relate to that and they see it. They can see any kind of superficiality in a personality. So I think being real, aside from the anointing of God and all those kinds of things. So that's a pretty simple answer, but I think it's a basic element.
Just being real. Authenticity, I know they say it.
Yes, exactly. You know, the apostles probably, if you looked at, studied what they brought to their particular generation, was the fact that they really believed what they were doing and they were real. It was like, it wasn't a profession. It was what they really had experienced, what they knew, and they could tell their stories of Christ and their experience in the upper room, let's say, you know, it was all real.
That is fantastic. Now, just for anybody, you got any just words of wisdom, words of advice?
You know, for our day, I think for our day, when you said we were going to talk about this, I pulled this little article. There was a guy in Indianapolis he wrote this article. His name is Peter Heck, and he wrote the article, How to Kill the American Church, which I wish I had written this article. Any of us could have written this article, but he had the boldness to write it. He now is a regular columnist for the Indianapolis Star, which was a very conservative paper at one time. Now it's more liberal. But anyway, he makes this point, which I think needs to be really emphasized among us, and it says it just right. True Christianity is confrontational. It is an open and courageous rebellion being conducted deep within enemy-occupied territory. I think every young person needs to understand that Christianity is a counter-culture. It's a counter to the culture, to the world, and if you have any love for the world, it's not going to work out. Wow. You're not on the team if you're really. So I thought Heck's article, I hold this up and say, look, if he could understand this, why can't especially apostolic people and people that fill with the Spirit not understand that he doesn't. I mean, he's a Christian, but he doesn't claim to be a minister. A very profound observation. Now, I think I would say it's one of the central things we need to really get.
Gotcha.
Is it's gonna be a confrontation. Because you know, and I know, the very opposite is happening. People are trying to make church comfortable, they're trying to make people like theatrical, and everything is, you know, have it your way kind of thing, you know, the old salad bar example, so. We're in a great fight, actually.
Conviction doesn't feel good sometimes. Make people comfortable.
I've been living for God most of my life, and it still doesn't feel good sometimes, you know, with the challenges of whatever God puts on your heart. I mean, you're trying to build a church, it's hard work,
Yeah.
it's hard work. And you can't pay people to do this work. I think it has to come, I was at a seminar one time with the Southern Baptist superintendent, and he was saying about their missions programs, how they had sent men out for 25 some years their program, and they had spent millions of dollars, and he said, don't challenge me on how much money we spent, millions of dollars, I've written a check, but most of the people that went into towns and cities with a burden and a desire, they had no money, no support, they established churches. But when we were paying them and giving them a salary, making it easy, a good number of them, I don't forget what the numbers were, I don't want to try to quote the numbers, but he wasn't happy with the numbers because it didn't work, and they've actually dropped the program. He said it's better for somebody to have a burden, go into town, get a job, mix, and work it that way. So I think we're in need of challenging young people to grow up and to take responsibility and get out and do it.
You know, talk about young people, how did you like feel a call?
I'm a great believer in a call of God, I really think. For me, it was over a period of time, I just kept having these moments. I don't want to explain it too long because it's, you know, it is very personal to you. But when I would go up to my room as a young man, and I'm going to say maybe junior, senior in high school, and I would pray little prayers. You know, it wasn't too serious, but I would sometimes just break, and it would like, I felt this urgency of some kind. But I don't know that it was real easy to explain. It was like some drawing, but exactly what. And then you just reject it, you keep rejecting it. And finally it just kind of emerged, I guess. But I do believe I don't think people have the same callings, the same process. But I think you need to be able to look back and say, I know that. And then as I moved into maybe, say, exercise the yes word, I'm willing, you know, that whole process in prayer. And for me, it wasn't like travail, fasting, and going into the wilderness on top of the mountain. But it was just it was becoming more and more part of my thinking. And then it became impossible to escape. And you just knew it was happening. But I never really, for me personally, I never really had that ambition. I had other ambitions.
God overcame you.
Yeah, well, it wasn't that. I don't think I wouldn't describe it like I was running from God or anything, but it was, you know, I never resented the fact that I was being called, like, oh, no, I don't want to be a preacher. I never rejected that. But I never really wanted to be a preacher either.
Just who you were supposed to be.
Yeah, I don't know how I did that. If I get alone, like I took a little sabbatical, and I started, because I had 28 days of complete solitude. I never was with anybody that I knew for 28 days, and mostly alone. And I began to be able to reconstruct the process of what I went through. And it surprised me, actually, because I had kind of forgotten some details of it.
Now, any hints on like just preaching? What's any thoughts come to mind?
Study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly right. I think you got to be in the Word. But then, the basics, the foundation. You got to understand the Bible, as you know you do, and you're one of the brightest people I know in terms of just having a full, broad understanding of theology. So somebody could bring up a theological word, what is a deist or whatever, you could give definition. A lot of people, I think, are into preaching and like say they're Christian preachers, but they're not aware that they're in contention with all of these theological theories and ideas and concepts. I think some people are good preachers and they're preaching good, but they don't have a connection with this whole theological, philosophical world. Does that make sense? So I think that helps you to get kind of that broad picture, which I've always admired that in you. You had a real broad look at things, you understand, you're well-read in different areas. So I think young people have to do that. I think they have to kind of get up to speed. You don't have to be a scholar, but you've got to kind of know those dynamics are out there.
Well, you got any last word? Just anything on your heart, spirit you'd like to share?
I think this is the biggest opportunity in the history of the world for people to, young people especially, to reach out. The tools, the communication tools are astounding. I mean, there's never been a time in the history of human civilization that a person could even imagine, like today, we're sitting here at this table, and if we were hooked up to Wi-Fi, we could talk to everybody in the world at almost no cost. I mean, think about that, how profound is that? I think that's the most exciting thing of the day. So this tool could not, these tools could not be just all for the devil. I think there's going to be some opportunities, and people are starting to max in.
Man, that is great. Well, thanks for meeting with us
Thank you.
today. Love you.